Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussions on empowering youth leadership, strategies for amplifying youth voices in regional decision making. I see a lot of youth here. Can we see a show of hands? How many of you are from the Asia Pacific region? Wow. So if you are not, then which region you belong to? Yeah. New York. And what about you? Are you from AP? Asia Pacific region? Nice. What about the Mediterranean? You too. Nice. So we hope that after this session, you can also recreate whatever that we pick up from the session back to your region as well. So again, let me introduce myself. I'm Hui from the Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation. So I get to know Tzu Chi through a program called IYLP, which stands for International Youth Leadership Program, in which we also incubate youth for the UN events and programs like this one. And as a faith-based organization, we are very devoted in and committed in community development and youth empowerment. So let's get started by introducing our panel. I'll call your name and you will introduce yourself very quickly. So we have Ram from NC Nepal. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Hello, good afternoon all. I am Ram from a National Campaign for Education. This is the civil society coalition in Nepal, and it works with the right to education and children rights. And we work for the evidence-based policy advocacy. I work there as a national coordinator. And I also represent the Global Campaign for Education. This is the Global Civil Society Network. There I serve as a board member.
Thank you. And Shilpa.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Shilpa. I work with Visible Impact. Visible Impact is a young women-led organization in Nepal. We are from same country. And yeah, nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Juliet.
Hi, I'm Juliet Braslow, and I work with the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. And I'm a Sustainable Development Officer doing a lot of work on coordinating the follow-up and review on the implementation of the SDGs.
Awesome. And for Nolisa.
Hi, I'm Nolisa, and I'm actually way beyond the youth group category. But anyway, thank you for having me here. I'm the CEO of Urbanize Malaysia, and Urbanize is actually a center of excellence under the Ministry of Housing and Local Government in Malaysia. And our work is actually to work across stakeholders in cities and communities, especially in delivering the sustainable agenda. So one of our major stakeholders is, of course, the youth group. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mitch. I am based in the Philippines, and I am working for Tubtaba Foundation. It's also based in the Philippines, and also on the Indigenous Peoples Major Group for Sustainable Development and the Indigenous Navigator. And currently, we are the focal point for the Indigenous Peoples constituency of the APRSM, or the Asia Pacific Regional CSO Engagement Mechanism. Thank you.
Awesome. So any questions from the ground, or can we go very quickly to know who's here with us? Do you want to start? Yeah. Just a very quick one, right?
Hi, my name is Emma. I'm a youth delegate from Malta, and I'm currently studying law.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cara. I'm a youth delegate from Malta, and I'm currently studying law.
Good afternoon. My name is John. I'm with the International Association for Youth and Students for Peace.
Hi, my name is Kai. I'm also from the International Association of Youth and Students for Peace.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, I'm Linda. And I founded the, sorry, I have something in my throat. We founded the Global Collab Network to empower teenagers all over the world to work on the SDGs. There's 13 meetings a week that teens lead from all over the world, and we want more teens from Asia. Many of the teens, about 10 of them, will walk in the room in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sakura, and I'm from Tokyo, Japan, and I am a student studying sustainable development.
Hi, my name is Naver. I'm an I'm from Armenia. Currently, I live in New York, and I'm very much interested in international development. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm a UN Youth and Sustainability representative for the New York Board of Rabbis and a Global Network of Religions for Children.
Hello, I'm Aparna from India. I represent the stakeholder group of communities discriminated on work and dissent.
Hi, my name is Rashmi Beg. I'm from India, working with the indigenous youth group in India.
Hi, I'm Azmi Zam. I'm from Urbanist Malaysia, Ministry of Housing and Local Government, Malaysia.
Eddie?
Hello, everyone. My name is Eddie. I'm 18-year-old youth representative of Tzu Chi Foundation, and I'm from California.
Heather.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Chen. I'm also with the Tzu Chi Foundation, and I'm also from California.
Okay, thank you so much. So for those who just joined us, we will get to know you a little bit later because we're a little bit running out of time. So let's start with here. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would like to kickstart with some foundational question. So how can decision makers in the Asia Pacific region systematically integrate youth perspective into policy discussion to address regional challenges such as climate change, inequalities, and economic recovery while ensuring inclusive development? It's a long questions.
Yeah, that's a very long one. And I didn't really prepare. So, I think you're asking from the perspective of Asia Pacific, but probably a reflection on Malaysia itself. We've got a huge population of youth actually. And I know that in different countries, we define youth very differently in terms of the age group. So for Malaysia, we take 18 to 40 actually as the definition. However, of late, we are reviewing it because, we do realize that, youth are more mature these days. And there's already a discussion to bring it up to 18 to 30 years old. So looking at that, we have about almost 31% of youth groups, and that's huge from the total population. And I think when you have a big pool, and demographically, we know that there will be a period of time where in every nation you will have a big pool of youth groups. And how do we make sure that you listen to these groups of the voice of the youth? I think for different countries, again, legal frameworks are very important, whether you like it or not, because if you want their rights to be heard, the voice to be heard, systematically there must be some form of legal framework that allow that voice to be heard. So in our country, in the past, 18 years old, you do not vote, but we recently changed that. Yeah, so the latest election 2 years ago was the first time where youth actually voted at the age of 18. I think that's the first step where you voice your rights, and because you know that you're going to have the rights to vote, then you will be taking the initiative to understand also the issues on the ground. Secondly, I feel that, for youth to be heard, they shouldn't just be speaking in youth group discussion. I just feel that, in a lot of events that I attend, even in Malaysia, I get invited to speak in youth group meetings. I find that it's commonly within the youth, I think if youth wants to be heard stronger and louder, they need to speak beyond that group, and this is where the HLPF and any other forums that's available, that provides that platform. I think youth groups should take that opportunity. In Urbanese in Malaysia, we provide that platform. Every year we have our Malaysia Urban Forum, and youth is one of our major stakeholder groups. And every year we get a few hundreds of youth coming together just to be discussing on these issues. And we make sure that they network with other major stakeholders as well to bounce those issues on the ground. So I think for them to be involved in the whole process of sustainable development in policy making, there must be that route that they need to take. So it's not just a one-way process, it must be two-way. And in our case, we have strong policies, National Youth Development Policy, So I think that's also good because one of the focus is employability. And we do realize that over the years, the employability is also a big issue, a mismatch between what the industry wants and what the universities are producing, or rather what the youth wants when they come out into the employment sector. So we have had in the past a lot of mismatch, and this is a big issue because education, takes a longer time to restructure itself. It's the most difficult part, I think, at least in my country. It's very difficult to restructure an education system. So I think this is where other platforms must be there to allow youth to actually have their voice be heard. So I think I stop there for now.
Sure. Thank you so much. Speaking about education, we have another perspective from Nepal that's really valuable. So let me have Ram to continue.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me in this panel and reflect some of our organization and my even the personal perspectives in regard to the integrating the youth perspective in the policy making. First, for me, youth is the kind of the innovations and creativity, and they have the motivations to do something new. And they are the one to motivate and create the space so that they can play from their one. But the problem is even in the different countries that youth voices are not included in the policy process, and they are less consulted, even though they have kind of the larger contributions in the nation development process. Taking the example of my countries, in most of the political changes or democratic process, you have youth movements, youth leaderships, they have the kind of the greatest role, but while coming it into the policy making or the government formations, the considerations of youth is taken in a less kind of the value. So, but the time is to think about how the policymaker integrated youth voice. Most of the things what I want to highlight is the provide the space and opportunity in the decision making. Maybe that the policymakers, they allocated the kind of these specific or certain seats or the quotas for the youth, so that they represented there and they have the opportunity to reflect their voice in the policy process. And also they have a kind of the regular or the institutionalize the process that the youth voices are heard. For example, it's not kind of the tokenism. There should be a institutionalized process, institutionalized mechanism in place, so that the mechanism is a kind of the sustain and the process is sustained. They are not neglected. And maybe we can also enhance the democratic mechanism that we promote the forum and platform. The youths, they can represent and participate there, and they have the kind of the unity or the mechanism. They have the voices and the models to replicate there. And also important most important thing is to integrate or to build the capacity of the youth, mostly the community, the local youth, because they are the ones, they are marginalized. They don't have the opportunity. Maybe because there are not kind of the multiple process they cannot follow. So we can invest much to build their capacity first and build their leadership, so that they have the confident enough to represent in the forums also, and they are can put their ideas, views in the policy process. And also we can establish the peer-to-peer learning mechanism also, so that the youth themselves, they have a kind of the mechanisms to access their ideas, learnings and experiences, and so they can also better learn from their peer one. And most important things is communications, because most of the youth, they don't have ideas, way to participate, what to, raise the voices or whom to contact. This kind of communication gap also mostly on the local level. So we need to have a kind of the good communication mechanism, dissemination mechanism, so that they have the opportunity, to build their capacity. And maybe we can establish the youth constituency, so that youth have a kind of the opportunity to build their to enhance their youth constituency. Maybe we can build the youth council, youth groups, or this kind of mechanism, so that this also helps to improve their voice, and they also have opportunity to share. So I think these are the ways that as a policymakers, if they considers these things, then youth they can better voice in the policy process, and it is really the youth friendly. I think I will stop here. Maybe we can discuss later.
Speaking about youth friendly, let's also hear from both the youth that we have here. So Mitch and Shilpa, who would like to go first? Sure.
Yeah. So talking about the decision makers, I can see like many young people here, but some of you might have been a decision maker in one or some of these spaces. And we have so many decision makers here. So I want to ask the decision makers one question: that do you genuinely value and understand young people and the significance of meaningful participation of young people? Or do you just see young people as an inexperienced voice that who are just there to present and talk, but are not to be taken seriously? So that is one question. A lot of young people are here, like they are participating, but are the decision makers really valuing what they are saying or not? So that is the core point I want to highlight here. And I'm talking this because as of my experience working with my own government and the decision makers, I have experience that they usually invite young people in their programs and policy makings and everything, but they usually see us as an immature individuals who are not capable to grasp and understand all these challenges and the processes and mechanisms, and capable of giving the strategic inputs to the policy discussions. So I think where we have to work is that we need the decision makers who actually value us and who are value clarified with regards to the meaningful youth participation. And we have to challenge the perspectives that young people are also as serious and also are as capable of the representatives of the big organizations and the government. The thing here I want to highlight is the fundamental shift in the internal value system of the decision makers and the adults is very necessary in order to have meaningful youth participation. Yeah, thank you.
Very nicely said. Mitch, what about your perspective?
Thank you so much. So, first point I'd like to make is to highlight really the importance of representation, and representation in the sense that it's inclusive of all constituencies. Since we have, women who are youth, we have indigenous youth, we have youth with disabilities. So including them into these representations would really make a stronger voice for youth in terms of decision making. Another is partnerships. It's really important for the state, for institutions to partner with ground or community-led youth organizations, because through this, they can be able to have or know their situations and challenges on the ground, not those organizations that are national, but they are really important. But again, the grassroots level is more important in terms of implementation. And another is direct support to youth-led initiatives and ensure an enabling environment for the youth to be able to freely voice their concerns. but not just freely voice out their views and perspective, but also not to be subjected to threats, harassments, and reprisals. And lastly is capacity building for youth. Again, going to the grassroots level up to the regional, and then global. And then lastly is the utilization of digital platforms. The technology this year is really improved in the use of AI. I think it's really important to use or see these technologies and how can it help promote the inclusivity of youth to decision-making processes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch, for your perspective. Well, let's hear from the SCAP perspective. How do you see about these questions?
Yes, I think I don't want to repeat anything that's been said, but reinforce some of the key elements about how youth really bring a lot of energy, a lot of ability to use disruptive ideas, which when we want change is really what we're looking for, some of these fresh ideas. And so finding the different kinds of opportunities to engage are really key, and that's been mentioned. So not just spreading the ideas and energy amongst the youth communities and youth groups, but really making sure to identify opportunities where there's an entry point for those voices. And from the UN perspective, to support some of those platforms, some of those mechanisms that can be open to and available to youth, and partnership as well with entities and organizations that can help in the capacity building piece as well, so that when there is an opportunity, when there is a platform to use that voice, and to when there's that shift in mindset to really accept that there is a value in what youth have to bring to the table in their lived experience and their very important value of the future, because it is ultimately the youth's future, to make sure that they're ready to use that voice. And so there are a variety of different opportunities at many different levels. And so a lot of SCAP's work is at the regional level and looking at how there are different kinds of UN youth delegate programs at the national, regional, and global levels where youth can get involved in, for example, the voluntary national review processes, and even some delegations after having this process of including youth will bring youth delegates as part of their official delegation. So let's see what happens in the VNR presentations. In some, they even make space, whether it's video or in person, to speak. So these are some of the opportunities we can even see here at HLPF. And then other kinds of advisory panels that are different opportunities in the UN system. For example, there's a UN youth advisory group in the resident coordinator's office in Azerbaijan. There are other examples of where there's space, and the UN is trying to help support creating that space at all different kinds of levels. There's also the UN volunteers, and there's a variety of different ways to volunteer with the UN volunteers to get a lot of exposure to policymaking, to the processes, technical experience, and also find out where there are even better platforms sort of from the inside of the volunteer perspective to make youth voices heard. At the regional level, there's an ASEAN youth programs in many different countries as part of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, that's ASEAN. So there's opportunities to contribute in these regional dialogues in that way. And at the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, we also have a youth forum. So Shilpa is also someone I recognize because she was at that a key player, as well as bringing the voices and the key insights from the Youth Forum to the Asia Pacific Development Forum on Sustainable Development, which then these perspectives get brought, the highlights identified and brought here to the HLPF in the regional session. So that's just a mix of a variety of different examples where once the voices are able to be heard, to also make sure that those messages are clear and inclusive.
And thank you so much for the perspective and the examples. So now let's turn into our attention to urban development. So I have a question to Puan Lisa. How can government and urban planners like you create platforms that leverage the innovative potential of young people to address challenges in sustainable urban development, such as affordable housing, green infrastructure, and resilient communities?
Another long question, yeah. Okay. Right, yeah. So there's a few things there that in your question. But I wanted to also, listening to all the other panelists just now, I think one thing that is very important is actually how we empower youth. I think it's not just the voices that we just want to hear. We want to know how we can empower them to take on more responsibility, to take on, not just your views, but also your actions. I mean, because I'm not within that category. So that's why I'm saying you in that sense. Because it's important. It is a two-way, it's a partnership. We call it partnership, right? So if it's not just a partnership between among youth, it's among youth with decision makers, it's among youth with other major stakeholders. And because of that, there needs to be that show of if we empower youth, what is your action to deliver the role that we provide for the youth. So I think this is where in the urban development space, in the city space, there's a lot of way that youth can play a role. First of all, in the physical space itself. It's been very challenging to understand this. I remember at one time, even in Malaysia, we tried to develop because the youth voice was so strong. So there was a attempt to actually, develop a city which is very responsive to youth requirements and needs. So there was a youth city kind of a program, and several cities in Malaysia were identified to actually create physical spaces that are, that will meet the needs of youth, because youth were complaining that, they need, it's very expensive even to play football because you got to pay for it. So they want more affordable public spaces, more reachable spaces in the cities. And because of that, we attempted to do that. But I think this is where uh, learning from that experience, I would say that I think there's also a thing about that time of year of being youth. It is actually the most difficult part of your life, because you're juggling between growing up, getting a job, also trying to stabilize your career. It's the most fragile period of one's life. Yeah? So I just felt that on one hand, we were trying to respond to the youth needs, but on the other hand, we were also seeing a lot of the things that we provided were actually not well utilized. And this is where in a way, from policy makers' point of view, did we fail to listen and understand properly? Or were the youth just saying it and it's not representing all of the youth, but just groups of youth or youth leaders? So sometimes it's very difficult, even when we say you engage. We have like in any kind of forums, we have like 500, 1,000 youth coming together, but you will see other views that actually conflict with that 100 people, 1,000 people. So again, are these voices really representative enough? Because when you are a policymaker, we had a program called TN50, where we wanted to know in the future, in 2050, what will be, what would you want in 2050? And there was a massive survey done by our youth ministry, outreaching to thousands of youth in the country. Media, they use all kinds, newspapers, social media. And I think the amount of information we processed from that was amazing. I thought so. And that was to help decision makers to make decision. But again, as an urban planner, what I find over the years is that there still will be a mismatch. There will still be a time where, what you plan doesn't meet the needs of that generation. So you might be thinking you're planning for 2050, But along the way, there's so many things that will happen that needs actually change over time. So that continuous engagement and feedback must happen. And youth or whatever group, women or whatever group, we must be empowered to say what we want to say and really be very sure that we are representing the groups in a very well manner. So like now in one of our city in Petaling Jaya, we have a child-friendly city. And I think the city is doing very well because they are very serious about it. They have appointed a child council aging between the ages of 12 to 18. And these children, I met them personally. They were very serious about their work. I was very, very fascinated. They were matured. They were making decisions in the council. And that's amazing, yeah. And we also have a situation of the youth parliamentarian in Malaysia, where youth are also the same question posed to the ministers are also posed to the youth parliamentarians, just to see as a response, what will be the view of this youth parliamentarian. It's a mock, it's a simulation, but it's a process that we as policymakers are trying to test out to understand what is the feeling on the other side. So I'm not sure whether I answered your question well enough, but I just feel that, even in whether it's planning, whether it's sustainable urban development that we are approaching, so that's the goal that we are going. And we want to get these inputs, but I think it's never a full stop to anything. It's like it's going to continue because today's after COVID, before COVID was already totally different, and we don't know what's next. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nolisa. And we also like to hear from Ram as well, because Ram, in a way, also approaches and having similar challenges and obstacles. We would also like to hear from you. How do you overcome the challenges of your work?
In regard to
your questions, yeah.
In terms of the challenges that most of the working with the local grassroots youth. So as I mentioned in previous questions also is a capacity gap because they don't have kind of the information enough to approach where. And also there is a kind of the leadership gap among the youth. This is at the youth level, but in the policy level also, the policy are not youth friendly. So they don't have a kind of the opportunity to have youth spaces or youth kind of the youth friendly mechanisms to intervene and to go with. And also in terms of the community level, kind of the perception also is in the culture context also is the kind of the challenge because youth are taken as a kind of the low capacity or they cannot they are not able, this kind of perspectives in the community level also. So this is a kind of the challenge, but in terms of the overcoming is we work with the youths, building the constituencies, and we work with them to eradicate the challenges that they are facing and come up with the coping strategies, how they can work with their parents, with the community to aware them and to mitigate the kind of the misperception towards the youth. And also we do the evidence, collect the evidence with the youth. This is the youth-led action research. It is in Nepal, Bangladesh, and Philippines, Indonesia that we do. And we do the research together with the youth. They lead the process. They do the need assessment. They design themselves and they involve with the youth, and they find out the challenges they are facing, and they work with the local governments with the solution what can be, like building the youth manifestos and youth declarations, and they work with the local governments level, mostly in terms of the building the new policies and also in also implementing the policies if there are something, but it gaps, it lacks the kind of the implementation. So these are kind of the coping strategies that we apply in terms of working with the local youths. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ram. So Mish and Shilpa, both of you have extensive experience in youth leadership development, right? So what strategies do you find most effective in empowering young leaders and ensuring their meaningful participation in decision making?
Yeah, okay. So the strategy, like I mentioned, the first one would be the decision makers who are really eager to listen and hear young people, like any other people, with the same respect in the room. And secondly, you talked about empowerment. So the empowerment should not be limited to only understanding the processes and mechanisms, but actually on how young people can strategize and advocate and influence these processes in order to make the changes. As young people, I have been personally intimidated by, the big organizations representatives and the government people when they are with us in the same room, and that intimidation is very, very real, and that actually prevents us from freely expressing our opinions and feelings. We often get, like we are feared if we'll say anything wrong or if they will not take us seriously, and if someone would laugh at us. So that kind of fear is within young people. And that's so real because I'm talking through my experience. And I think in order to break that fear and intimidation, they have to be empowered enough, and a safe space has to be created through the collaboration of both the decision makers, the government, and the young people, so that they can freely talk about anything and will not fear of being not heard and not taken seriously. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. I love the raw narrative that you have. What about you, Mitch?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to highlight again the fostering of partnerships with youth organizations, especially grassroots organizations, and also youth organizations from local, national, up to their global levels. And since we are talking about strategy to empower youth, what we are pushing or what we are asking is not just for the support of the states and the local government units, but actually their commitment, right? Not just support, but commitment to implement these policy or frameworks that they are doing or they are initiating. And also another strategy can be put in place is the monitoring frameworks, since how can we monitor if this policy is effective or not? So the monitoring framework should be in place in terms of doing policy from the government and institutions. And also, I'd like to highlight on the transparent and inclusive process, transparency and inclusivity. And lastly, on the safe spaces for engagement for youth, since we all know, I think everyone can relate that the civil society spaces is shrinking, and a rise of authoritarianism in the region, in the Asia Pacific, is a major stumbling block for the effective engagement of the youth in relevant processes. So I think that is the key message there: ensure safe spaces for engagement and transparency, inclusivity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. I love your perspective on how you feel from the grassroots and how you also feel from the policymaker perspective. So now let's direct to Juliet. So how can the UN and regional bodies collaborate more effectively with youth-led organizations and networks to ensure that youth perspectives are integrated into their policies and programs?
So from the perspective at the sort of regional and slightly global yet level, we see how young people remain at the margins of policymaking, which we've been talking about here. and that the youth-led innovations that we see are generally under-resourced or overlooked. So we want to be able to tap into the creativity, the unique talents, a lot of the entrepreneurial spirit. So the partnerships that mentioned before are really instrumental. So in the Asia and Pacific region, we the HLPF process, so starting with the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development and including the ECOSOC Youth Forum, are some of the processes where we try to make sure that we facilitate bringing the voices of young people to be heard by the policymakers and also have a role. So a role beyond just sitting in the room and speaking, but actively contributing in different ways. A lot of our work is around the intergovernmental processes, so how we can try to provide that platform. And we've also collaborated for several years with civil society and youth-led and youth-serving organizations in the region. The APRSM as well as a very strong partner that Mitch mentioned. In this annual forum, in preparations for the high-level political forum, and then I mentioned the youth forum that happens every year before our annual Sustainable Development Forum, and that also feeds into the People's Forum. So we like to make sure that there is this space for engagement, a safe space for engagement and for planning and for some of this ability to come together and ensure that there's inclusivity for the voices that come in front of the policymakers that are there in the intergovernmental forum. And we try to make sure that everyone has a voice. It is multi-stakeholder and we want to be inclusive. And the young people's participation, we've made an extra effort in this past cycle, and we'll continue to do so to make sure that it's there. One example is the first Youth Climathon program that we had this past February, where there were groups of youth from all over the region that came together and formed teams for climate action projects, leveraging digital innovation in many cases. And so there was a capacity building element for how to design a project that could effectively tackle some of the key issues, and then also how to communicate about it. Communication came up. So how to effectively communicate the action and the plan and the proposal, and bringing together some potential funders, some other donors and experts in the field to listen to these pitches and to be able to sort of choose a winner, but give support and networks as well. And so really being able to have this also be designed by youth, sort of what would be helpful, what would be effective, and then that comes into the intergovernmental forum. So that's just an example of how we really try to create spaces and also iterate, as Norlisa, as you said, because something we think may work and may work in some instance, and in a few years may not be exactly what youth want or how they want to engage.
Thank you so much. So I also learned that we need to keep some space for the Q&A. So before we conclude, I would also like to bring us back to a broader question to our panelists. So in an ideal scenario, so what are the essential elements of model for youth leadership and engagement in regional decision making that consistently lead to tangible process or progress towards the SDG? I think some of you have already mentioned through your sharing, but just give a quick highlight. So we can start with Juliet, then we can pass the mic. Thank you.
All right. I think one thing that was already mentioned, but that is really key, is that this is the tech savvy generation and is only to continue to be more tech savvy. So I think using this enthusiastic innovation, understanding of how to use technologies to really leverage that, to find ways to be teachers, as we talked about, sort of being two-way in the way that we're engaging with youth, and also to use it to push, to advocate, to really make those voices amplified. So I think really leveraging the technologies we have along with the learning and partnership to have that meaningful engagement.
Okay, thank you, Juliet. Do you want to go next, Lisa?
Yeah, okay. Maybe the a very old style way is actually exchange programs, you know. I just feel that that's something that works very well. You know, learning hands-on. Sometimes a lot of this just being involved in a conversation sometimes is not enough. So maybe really involved in technical exchange programs will be very, very useful. Recently, we hosted ASEAN China, And surprisingly, in the communique that came out of the ASEAN-China construction and housing meeting was a move for more exchange, and youth was seen mentioned very strongly by leaders in ASEAN and China. And I think I was very happy that it came out very strongly from the ASEAN and China leaders, because I think they realized that if you're going to talk about capacity building, if you're going to talk about the future of net zero, of green living and so forth, there must be that collective, collaborative action that needs to be happen in a more wider scale, regional scale. And the best way to do that is to build capacity regionally, and exchanging, being involved in exchanging programs, technical know-hows, I think would be an excellent program. So I think that's happening, something that we will follow up with ASEAN and China, and because that was just happened last week, so I have not gone home to see what to do with it. So it came out very strongly as one of the 7 key action points of the leaders. Yeah.
Thank you. I personally also come from one of the first activity that I participated was Indonesia-Malaysia Youth Exchange Program. And the one that really lasted my growth and my learning memories is my exchange program in Indonesia as a student as well. So I really would like to acknowledge that that is a really good model. And if, let's say, people on the ground, you have the opportunity for any kind of exchange, it could be cultural exchange, educational, please go for it. Yeah, Mitch?
Thank you. For the elements for youth leadership and engagement, I think it's really important on the establishing and sustaining institutionalized spaces. So within local, national, regional, and global policy spaces for participation and social justice movements where youth can participate equally, meaningfully, and effectively, and also increase multi-year flexible transformative funding and for support. Again, these, as I mentioned earlier, those youth-led, indigenous-led projects or initiatives also have funding or support from institutions and from the state. And also mentioning that prioritize those formed and led by people historically marginalized on the basis of gender identity and expression, class, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, disability, or region. So going back to my first point earlier, it's really on the inclusivity of this diverse group because, as mentioned earlier, those figures like we don't know how many millions of youth we have in the world right now, but they are very diverse. And those representation, how can really those young leaders represent all these diverse groups? And so we are going back to the grassroots community and having a consolidated approach from the grassroots, bringing it to the national, regional, to the UN, to the global, and other institutions.
So thank you so much, Mitch. One thing that I would like to share with you here from the ground is whenever we go to forums in the Asia Pacific region, you really see a good representations of all kinds of people. It's really, really inclusive. And sometimes we do not really see that here. So that's one of the good job that we can see in the AP region. Okay, let's hear from Shilpa and then we go to Ram.
Yeah. I'd like to highlight only one thing, which has already come around. It's about the capacity building. And Julia talked about the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. So I'd like to share that I have been part of the APFSC forum in February, and I got the opportunity to speak alongside, distinguished guests and experts. And it was a very enlightening experience for me. I engaged in the negotiations. I mean, like I observed various negotiations and attended the bilateral meetings that were happening. So everything was very new for me, and I was observing and learning a lot of things. But beside these observations, uh, I felt that I could not make any actual negotiations or engage myself in the lobby or advocacy efforts. And the simple answer to this is I didn't know how to, because it was my first time and I was having the passive observation only. So building capacity is one thing, but like actually building the capacity of young people to intervene and understand how the interventions that they give will actually translate into the actions and implementation is very important. So yeah, that's I think it's the capacity building is very important, but in a way that young people feel confident, they feel confident to talk about their issues, give the intervention. And I'm here at HLPF and I will be giving the intervention, but I'm not sure if the things that I'll talk there will actually be reflected in the outcome document, or if it's going to be implemented in actions in any way. So there is some gap in the knowledge with young people. We know something, but not everything. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of the model, first, what I want to highlight is the process, the institutions is really the youth-led, as mentioned by Jim Rex. Because if the process institutions they are really they are youth-led, then for example, in our country, maybe the Silpaji also might know well about these times the BNR youth-led BNR was also made in Nepal. So it was really the youth, they consult with their groups, their peers, and they prepared their report for the BNR country. So I mean, the process or the institutions that leads that gives the opportunity, and but it need to be a kind of the really the youth led. And also in terms of the as I mentioned that the model is the constituency building is the important that we exercise this, but it is a good example for us that that constituency building, youth constituency building, work well to discuss with the among the youths, find out the problem, find out the solutions, and do a kind of the advocacy with the local and province federal government. So this kind of the constituency building is one of the model that helped to empower the youth groups, mostly the marginalized youth, mainly the girls. And also the as I mentioned in earlier intervention also is the youth-led action resource. This is also the good example in Asia Pacific region that in collaboration with ASBE, we did in multiple countries, and that it was the good to find out the problems of the youth by themselves, find the solution, because of that resource and the regular engagement of the youth in most of the communities, youths they were able to send back the out of school girls in multiple districts. This is the example of Nepal, Bangladesh, and Philippines, as I mentioned. So this kind of practices at the local level, if we give the looks and while preparing the policies, and if we replicate those from the regional and the global level, and that really helps to empower youth and give them the opportunity. I think this is the these are some of the examples from our country and regions that I highlighted here. And the at the end, what I say is, so youth is the what they have the spaces, opportunities, it's their rights, so we should not take them as a taken for granted. So we should take is their rights, And it is everything should be like in their leadership, not a kind of just give a forum or platform and they speak. No, this is the process, entire process should be in their leadership, so that at least they can have their own ideas, creativity, innovations to empower themselves, not we empower them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you for sharing all the insights from all the work, because even though they could sum up in just few minutes, but you can tell it's years and years, decades of work. So I would also like to open to the crowd if you have any questions. So anyone? Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. First I'd love to, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Loretta. I hail from a very beautiful Southern African country. I think this is a very interesting conversation, something that's very close to me, and seeing a lot of young people in this room is a breath of fresh air. Spaces like this really provide opportunities for us as young people to not only amplify the things that we've been speaking about for years, but also to kind of draw the attention of the people that make decisions. Now, before I even make a comment and ask my question, I'd just love to quickly ask how many people in here attending this a UN event for the very first time? By show of hands. Okay, that's a good number. One thing that I have noticed, this is my second event that I'm attending, organized by the UN, the High Level Political Forum. And for me, I find that the UN, I'll really narrow this down to the UN process. There's a lot of red tape and bureaucratic processes. So we come in these rooms and we talk about strategies for amplifying youth voices and youth for meaningful youth participation. But really, no one is really talking about the processes that we have to go through as young people just to be in these spaces. Like we have to like really fight hard and aim this sport for us to be here, which I feel is not right. Also, as we are representing organizations here, young people as well, the ones that are here, we have a mandate, we have a duty to the people that we're representing from the communities and countries that we're coming from. It's not just about coming here and taking pictures, photo ops, and say we had 50 young people in a room and we discussed this. It's also about translating the ideas and strategies that we learn in these spaces to the countries where we're coming from. Because whether you like it or not, the people that are leading today will not be there in the next 30 years, in the next 20 years. It's us, the young people. And we've already addressed the fact that we missed it somewhere. Young people have, for a long time, been marginalized in these processes. They've been excluded. And if we don't learn from the mistakes of the older generations, we are bound to fail as young people as well, and we'll be failing the next generations. So we really need to be honest. And also, I would just love to make a recommendation to, sorry, I didn't get your name, but the lady from the UN. When you talk about events like the ECOSOC youth forums, these are very brilliant events. We're not disputing that. But the processes for young people to get into these spaces should be easier. When we say accessibility, how accessible are they? Who are the young people participating in these processes? Where are they coming from? Because year in, year out, it's the same faces. And you can't tell me that the world is short of young people from around the globe that deserve to be in these spaces and represent our communities. So these processes should be easier, they should be more accessible. And let's keep fighting as young people. Our very existence, we should live so free as young people that our very existence is an act of rebellion. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's pass it to the back.
Yes, hi. This is really a fantastic event, and I'm glad to hear so many young voices. But I heard a lot of voices talking about, well, we need to get the adults to pay attention to us. We need to have our voices heard. I'm a member of Rotary. We have about 350,000 young people, mostly between the ages of 15 and 18, just in our Interact programs, in more than 15,000 locations around the world. Our particular club is dedicated to creating opportunities especially for young people, to do more with their lives than they or their parents or teachers ever dreamed possible. And finally, I'm also the representative to the UN from one of the largest model UN conferences around the world. We've got the 27,000 alumni that have participated in the last few years. So one of the things that we tell young people is stop waiting for permission. Just do it. Don't ask for a seat on the table. You know what, here we're talking about, oh, you're young people, you have to attend all these conferences and attend all these meetings so that we'll have time to train you how to do nothing. Because that's what you see when you come to these conferences. What did they talk about 10 years ago? How much of what they talked about 10 years ago has been accomplished? So you're the opportunity. Now, one of the things that we've looked at is how do we create those opportunities for you to take action and take control of your own futures? And let me just give you one example. What would happen if we were to come out and announce global competition for teams in schools? Whatever team in a school can come up with the most outrageously audacious solution ideas to a major world problem. And we'll offer $1 million in funding and support for great ideas. But our goal is not to come up with the best idea. Our goal is to maximize the number of young people who participate in the seeking of ideas. Because whether you win or you don't win, that practice of seeking ideas is going to help you throughout the rest of your lives. We tried it. We tried this just before COVID. We did a pilot. And the young people that were participating, mostly between the ages of 15 and 18, were so impressive that the World Summit of Nobel Peace Prize winners invited the winning team to go down to Mexico and host a workshop in front of 35 Nobel Peace Prize winners and the leaders of 5,000 NGOs. So these were 16-year-olds, by the way, that won that. So this is something we want to do. But the idea, the very idea to do something like this came from a 17-year-old girl. Okay, almost all the ideas that we're pursuing in our club, which is a global club, came from young people. So what we're doing is we're listening, we're challenging young people, come up with the ideas, come up with the ideas. How do you mobilize your generation? Because you've got a choice. Either you're going to take control of your futures or you're going to have to live with what my generation's leaving behind. And I don't wish that on anyone. So if you're interested in that, I've got cards here. We are looking for co-conspirators. We are looking for young people that say, let's do it. Okay, and we'll connect you up with young people in around other parts of the world here and then just do it. Come up with the ideas, modify the ideas, and just make it happen. We want to mobilize 500 million young people before the end of next year to eradicate illiteracy in every school worldwide before the end of 2025. There's a plan of how it could be done. And it will cost. It's not a question of money at all. It's just a question of people saying, let's do it. So if you're interested, see me here at the end of this. I'd love to get as many people here involved in sharing their ideas and making things happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the promotion. Yes, please go ahead. I think we have a lady at the back first, then we come back to the front. Is it okay? Yeah.
All right. First of all, I would like to say, Bill, thank you so much for your point. And my name is Joy Sun, and I represent the Global Collab Network, which is actually a platform of global teams all around the world, where we have digital hubs or cohorts that promote all of the solutions to all of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And I totally agree with the statement that you just made, since right now our organization's purpose is to empower all of the teams globally into making solutions no matter what they are, no matter how small they are. And the reason I'm here today at the High Level Political Forum and attending this event is because I submitted a solution, a 2-minute video to Sustainable Development Goal number 12, and I won the 2023 Teens Dream Video Competition under the Global Collab Network. So it's these small competitions like these that actually give teens the motivation and the opportunity to attend major high events like the High Level Political Forum. So I'm not sure who it was on the panel that mentioned how difficult it is for teens like us or just youth like us to attend major events like this. But I truly believe that
the flyer that you just had out, like the teen stream video competition, these small events are abilities for teens to attend like events like these. So I definitely think that we should make more competitions or just events like this. And also I had a question for Miss Shipa. Is it on the panel? So I think you mentioned that as young people, we know something, but not everything. I think that it was one statement that you said. So I was just wondering, what are some strategies we can use to replace that gap with our knowledge in order to speak more effectively and create more change at major high events like the high level political forum? Thank you.
Yes, so the point was we have to translate our passive observation to the active and effective engagement. So giving opportunity for young people to participate in these kinds of forum is very essential, but at the same time, it has to be ensured that they are well informed of what is happening and where are the places where they can exert the influence and who they can talk to, or like how they can make their participation more effective. So the strategy is again highlighting that the capacity building, and it doesn't has to be provided from somewhere. It can also come from the young people itself. Young people can actively seek out to learn things because a lot of things are already in the internet, but sometimes we see everything and get overwhelmed. And yesterday I just like arrived and went to UN, but could not even navigate to the conference rooms and everything, and I was so sleepy because of the jet lags, and I went back. So like it's a struggle sometimes to like understand everything and navigate these types of forums. That's really overwhelming for us when it's the first time we are participating. So yeah, it's also the responsibility of young people to seek out and like try to learn things, but also if there could be some spaces that helps young people to strategize their engagement, then that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Shilpa. Yes.
Hi everyone. My name is Rania Zanekwe, and I'm a 17-year-old from Colorado in the United States. I am an ambassador of the Global Collab Network, and just to reiterate, this is a virtual organization empowering youth spanning across 5 different continents to advance the 17 SDGs through various team-led projects and initiatives. Digital technology is at the forefront of everything that we do at the Global Collab, and we have members from Pakistan, Uruguay, Nigeria, and even Turkey. So we truly are an international community. I have a brief question. What is the best way to organize youth voices to make their messages heard? I think that partnerships, connections, collaboration, and outreach are essential to fostering sustainable development and ensuring that all voices are not only represented, but also empowered to lead the way. And I also believe that there's power in numbers. And if we use virtual technologies and platforms like Zoom and Google Meet to connect youth across the world, I believe that developing nations and developing regions would be more equipped to handle these complex issues from a youth-focused lens. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the questions. May I know which panels would like to direct the questions to?
Oh, anyone can answer.
Anyone would like to take the questions?
Maybe in terms of the ways, is I would summarize in a 2I and 2C. It involve the youth and inform them, and also consult and collaborate with them. So maybe we need to make their quality involvement, quality engagement, not a kind of the tokenism, and also better inform them about the process and procedures. As Silpa recently mentions, they need to know everything, the process, procedure, everything. And this is the information involved. And also collaborate and partnership with them because they are really the stakeholders. So then we need to collaborate, we need to partner with youth colleagues, youth peoples, and also consult because at the different levels, we need to outreach them, we need to reach out to them, and because they are at the community level, they are at the ground level. So we need to reach out to them, and we need to consult in the regular process. I think, yeah, these are the ways that that can be useful to empower and build them.
Thank you so much. Yes, please. Yeah, just keep it quick because we have only 3 minutes left. Do you have a microphone? Where's the second?
Hi everyone. My name is Sujin. I'm 17. I'm also from the Global Collab, which is a network of 13 to 18-year-olds like you've heard in the past. And I just want to quickly summarize what I've kind of been doing. So I got into this with like the video contest, the same one that she entered. But what I did is I've been like just mainly focused on getting rid of single-use plastics all across. And I've been working on mainly like I've researched bioplastics in 6th grade. So last year when I went to India, I saw that there was a lot of single-use plastics, and it was a pretty big problem there. So to combat that, to do my best, I actually did partner up with a member of the Rotary who helped fund like I went to the Rotary Club, told them my like issue, and the members there were generous enough to help partially fund me to maybe give out over like 350 water bottles there, reusable metal water bottles, so that they would not have to use the single use and like have to deal with that issue. So my question for you guys was like, when you guys are scaling up, or like when you're at an age that's below 18 or like 13 through 18, and it's harder to like get people to, take you seriously, or like know that you actually have like the strive or the motivation to do something, how is it to like scale this up? Like what process do you guys go through to scale your like ideas up to a next level?
Thank you. Well, before I respond to your question, I just like to have a comment with all the comments that were done today. First of all, in the perspective of us as Indigenous peoples, we go back to the commitment of states. Again, you are mentioning earlier Zoom meetings. Us Indigenous peoples are the most vulnerable in the effects of sustainable development, of climate change. We are going back to the access of basic services, because how can, for example, us youth indigenous peoples access other services if the basic services has not yet met, right? So again, these are the commitment of states that provide basic services to the people in the communities. Again, we are from the grassroots communities and we do not have access on these, right? To respond to your question, what made me really motivate to do this thing is that it's a bit tiring because, for example, us we are engaging to different processes. We are in the Convention on Biological Diversity. We are in the Human Rights Council. We are in the climate change COPs, and the seats are one seat. There is the shrinking spaces, and so that made really motivate to engage to these kinds of processes, because if you really attend these UN processes, it's you have the 2-minute intervention, yeah, and then side events and clinics and labs. But yeah, that really made us motivate ourselves, going back to our fight for what 20 plus years of pushing for declaration on the rights of indigenous peoples. That took a long time. So I think going back to the historical injustices really motivates us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think Mona Lisa would like to add something.
Yeah, I just want to say something because, suddenly when I'm listening to all of you, I remembered when I was 26 years old, that was a long time ago. I attended my first youth international meeting at a Commonwealth Youth Forum, in London when I was 26. And, the feeling of loss, I felt it then also. So whether it was then or now, I think it's the same feeling. And that was ages ago, decades ago. So my point is, I've been involved ever since, and you can't stop fighting. I've been involved and I've been talking about this for ages. But there will be change. I guarantee you. There will be small changes, but you just have to accept those small wins and not just wait for the big wins, you know. So over the years that I've been doing this, and I have been disappointed, I have been let down, but I think you don't give up if you want to be the voice, you know. And I think that's and I've learned to accept the smaller wins along the way and feeling satisfied about it. So please don't stop, okay? And secondly, I also want to reflect on what I realized what the women's group were doing, which is the Wairu Commission, if you've heard of them, you know. When I was in Nairobi, attending the UN Habitat Assembly, they prepare their groups of women and the grassroots for every meeting. Every meeting, they have a pre-council meeting as early as 7:30 a.m. They'll meet in small rooms. And when they came for my World Urban Forum 9 in Kuala Lumpur, which we hosted in 2018, we gave them a small room. And I realized that they were the first to arrive in the convention hall as early as 7:30. And they will have small groups meetings, and they will be prepped to enter the high-level dialogues, high-level rooms. And these women, some of them are actually native, you know, representing all kinds of groups. But I was amazed as to how daring they were to speak in the meetings and in the forums, you know, and they became strong as a group. They were not strong as individuals. And another, what I learned from my professional group is that we were so many of us, you know, professional groups, just like you, youth groups, there's so many. So now we have this Habitat for Professional. And I think going together with 16, 17, 18 organization, that will help. So maybe some kind of coalition, some kind of between youth groups will be very, very powerful, you know, not only useful, but simply powerful. So I want to congratulate all of you for saying what you want to say, for being strong and believing that, you know, you are fighting for your space, you are fighting for your future. But I just want to say that the journey doesn't end here. And so keep on going, you know. Thank you.
Thank you that we actually crossed paths today. Do you want to add anything, Juliet? Because I recognize that we have a question online. Sorry to take us a few more minutes. So Olivia, I see you raise your hand. Can we hear?
Hi, can you hear me? Hello? Am I audible enough? Okay, I think someone is nodding, which suggests that I am audible enough. So my name is Olivia Tutu, and I'm tuned in from Africa, Zambia to be specific. And I just wanted to sort of speak on what I've forgotten his name, but there's a speaker who spoke about how young people should demand for a seat at the table, or better still, create those solutions and then have our world leaders listen to us. Now, in as much as that is true, and that's something that I'm doing in my local community here back home, we have a youth organization called Youth and Sustainable Development Goals, and we're basically trying to raise awareness with regards to sustainable development. But the fact that we don't have exposure, or the fact that we also don't have something that Loretta spoke about, which is the bureaucracy that is in the structures and the systems, makes it somewhat so hard for our efforts to be recognized or for us to get the financing that we might need. So I just wanted to raise a point to say, in as much as we as the young people are doing as much as we can, and I kid you not, there's a lot of young people in Africa that are doing tremendous works with regards to sustainable development and feeding into the 17 SDGs. But the fact that we don't have as much support as we would like, especially for us in Africa, it makes it somewhat so much hard for us to push our agenda forward, to push our initiative forward, because one, the governments don't have the resources that we need, and most of the times the UN agencies we have in our countries are not as responsive to our needs, and they're not incorporating us in the systems and in the structures of implementing these policies and the frameworks. So I just wanted to put that across to say a lot of young people are doing what we can with the little resource we have and the enthusiasm and the energy that we have. But if the systems were made a little bit much more simpler or a little bit straightforward, then we would feel as though our voices are being heard and our efforts are being recognized, despite them being in smaller quantities. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Still Patrick. So really thank you. Yeah. So really thank you all of you for your contributions and your insights, even though you are streaming online, coming from different regions. Even though when we designed this session, we wanted to cater to the Asia Pacific region, but we realized that we are a global community and we're just here to reflect on what we have here from the region. And we hope that you can bring back to wherever you want to work on. So let's commit to actually take this momentum, even carry out this conversation outside of this room. And we hope to see everyone again. Thank you so much for being here.